The bridge of the USS Horizon hummed with quiet activity as Captain Daniel Harper reviewed the latest sensor reports. They had been traveling through the Kepler 442 system for 3 weeks now, mapping planets and collecting data about star formations. It was routine work, the kind that made up most of deep space exploration. Daniel had been doing this for 15 years, and he knew that most missions ended without finding anything remarkable. Lieutenant Maya Singh sat at her station, watching the monitor display streams of information. She was responsible for analyzing all the data the ship's sensors collected. Most days she saw nothing but rocks, ice, and empty space. Today started the same way. She sipped her coffee and prepared for another long shift of looking at nothing interesting. Then something changed. A signal appeared on her screen that made her sit up straight. The readings showed an energy signature coming from the fourth moon of a gas giant planet. The signature was strong, pulsing in regular patterns. Maya ran the analysis 3 times to make sure her equipment was working correctly. Each time the results were the same. "Captain," Maya said, her voice steady but urgent, "I'm picking up something unusual. There's an energy source on the fourth moon. The pattern is too regular to be natural." Daniel walked over to her station and looked at the data. His heart began to beat faster. In all his years of exploration, he had never seen readings like these. The energy signature showed technology, advanced technology that operated on principles their scientists didn't fully understand. "Can you identify the source?" Daniel asked. Maya worked her controls, trying to get a clearer picture. "It's coming from a structure on the moon's surface." "Captain, the structure is massive. It's at least 50 kilometers wide." Commander Patrick Hayes joined them at the station. He was Daniel's second in command, a cautious man who always thought through every decision carefully. He studied the readings and frowned. "Could it be a natural formation?" Patrick asked. "Maybe some kind of crystal structure that generates energy?" Maya shook her head. "The geometry is too perfect. Look at these angles. This is artificial. Someone built this." The bridge became silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the captain. They all understood what this meant. In over 200 years of space exploration, humanity had never found evidence of alien life. They had discovered thousands of planets, many with the right conditions for life, but never any proof that other intelligent beings existed. Until now. Daniel took a deep breath. This was the moment every explorer dreamed about, but it also carried enormous responsibility. Whatever decision he made in the next few minutes would affect not just his crew, but all of humanity. "Take us closer," Daniel ordered, but slowly. "I want full scans running constantly. If anything changes, if that structure shows any sign of hostile activity, we pull back immediately." The USS Horizon changed course and began moving toward the moon. As they got closer, the structure became visible through the main view screen. What they saw took everyone's breath away. The structure rose from the moon's surface like a city of light. Towers made of something that looked like crystal stretched into space, connected by bridges that glowed with soft blue energy. The entire complex pulsed with power, creating patterns of light that moved across its surface like waves on an ocean. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "How old is this?" Daniel asked. Maya studied her readings. "The energy signature suggests it's been active for at least several thousand years. Maybe longer." "Captain, there's more. I'm detecting smaller structures all around the main complex. This isn't just one building. This is a city." Chief Engineer Lucas Grant spoke up from his station. "Captain, I'm analyzing the energy output. This structure is producing more power than our entire civilization uses in a year, and it's doing it cleanly with no waste products I can detect." Daniel felt a mixture of excitement and fear. Whoever built this possessed technology far beyond anything humanity had developed. The question was, where were they? And more importantly, were they still here? "Scan for life signs," Daniel ordered. Maya worked her controls. "I'm detecting multiple biosignatures inside the structure." "Captain, they're not human. The readings show life forms, but their biological makeup is completely different from anything in our database." Patrick stepped closer to Daniel and spoke quietly. "We should report this to Earth Command before we make contact. This decision is too big for us to make alone." Daniel considered this. Patrick was right that this was perhaps the most important moment in human history, but Earth was months away, even with their fastest communication systems. If they waited for instructions, they might lose this opportunity forever. "Send a full report to Earth Command," Daniel said. Include all our sensor data and our current position. But we're not waiting. If these beings are intelligent enough to build this, they already know we're here. We need to show them we're not afraid to meet them. He turned to his communications officer. Lieutenant Jason Palmer, open all standard first contact frequencies. Send a greeting in all known mathematical languages. Jason worked quickly, sending out signals that used mathematical concepts that should be universal. Prime numbers, basic equations, anything that could show intelligence without requiring a shared language. For several minutes, nothing happened. The structure continued its gentle pulsing, but there was no response to their signals. Daniel began to wonder if they had made a mistake. Maybe the structure was automated, left behind by a civilization that had moved on or died out. Then the entire structure suddenly blazed with light. Every tower, every bridge, every surface began to glow brighter. The USS Horizon's sensors went wild as the structure sent out a massive energy pulse. For a moment, Daniel thought they were under attack. He was about to order an emergency retreat when Maya shouted, "Captain, it's not a weapon. It's a transmission. They're responding to us." The main view screen changed. The image of the structure was replaced by something else. A being appeared on the screen and everyone on the bridge stared in wonder. The being was tall and slender with skin that seemed to be made of translucent material that glowed from within. Its face was elegant with large eyes that held an expression of gentle curiosity. When it moved, it left trails of soft light in the air around it. The being spoke, and somehow, impossibly, the ship's computers translated its words into English. "Greetings, travelers from Earth. We are the Varen. We have been waiting for you to reach us. Welcome to the wider galaxy." Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady despite the emotions flooding through him. "This is Captain Daniel Harper of the United Earth vessel Horizon. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." The being on the screen seemed to smile. "We know. We have been watching your species for a very long time. You have grown much in recent centuries. Now you are ready to learn truths that will change everything you believe about the universe and your place in it." The being on the screen identified itself as Keeper Valnus, an ambassador of the Varen civilization. Its voice was calm and musical, with a quality that made everyone who heard it feel somehow at ease despite the strangeness of the situation. "Captain Harper," Valnus said, "we invite you and a small group from your crew to visit our station. There is much we wish to share with you, and much we hope to learn about how your species has developed." Daniel knew this was an enormous decision. Taking crew members onto an alien station meant putting them at risk. But it was also the opportunity of a lifetime, something that could benefit all of humanity. He looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. He saw excitement, fear, wonder, and determination. "I accept your invitation," Daniel said. "I will select a team and prepare to come aboard your station." Valnus nodded, a gesture that seemed remarkably human. "We will guide your shuttle to a docking port. Please take whatever time you need to prepare. We have waited centuries for this meeting. A few more hours will not matter." The screen returned to showing the glowing structure. Daniel immediately called a meeting in the conference room. He gathered his senior officers and explained the situation. They needed to choose who would go on this historic mission. Maya Singh volunteered immediately. "I need to see this," she said. "My entire life has been about studying what might be out there. Now we know. I have to be part of this." Lucas Grant also raised his hand. "Someone needs to look at their technology. I can analyze their systems and try to understand how they work. This could help us advance our own science by centuries." Daniel also selected Dr. Sophie Martinez, the ship's chief science officer. Sophie specialized in biology and had spent years studying theories about what alien life might look like. Now she would get to see the reality. Patrick Hayes wanted to go as well, but Daniel refused. "I need you here commanding the ship. If something goes wrong, if this is some kind of trap, you need to get the Horizon and its crew back to Earth. The information we've already gathered is too important to risk losing." Patrick didn't like it, but he understood. "If you're not back in 12 hours, I'm coming after you." Daniel smiled. "If we're not back in 12 hours, you run. Get this data to Earth Command." "That's an order." The team prepared carefully. They wore their formal dress uniforms to show respect. They carried translation devices, recording equipment, and medical scanners. Sophie insisted on bringing biological containment gear in case they encountered organisms that could be dangerous to humans. As they boarded the shuttle, Daniel felt the weight of what they were about to do. They would be the first humans to meet an alien species face to face. Everything they said and did would set the tone for how humanity and the Varen would interact going forward. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. The shuttle detached from the horizon and began flying toward the alien station. As they got closer, the true scale of the structure became clear. The towers stretched for kilometers into space. The energy bridges between them pulsed with power. The whole station seemed alive, as if it was breathing. A docking port opened in one of the towers, and the shuttle glided smoothly inside. When they landed, the four humans sat in silence for a moment, gathering their courage. "Well," Lucas said finally, "I guess we're really doing this." They opened the shuttle door and stepped out onto the alien station. The air was breathable, which the Varen had assured them it would be. The docking bay was enormous, with curved walls that seemed to be made of the same glowing material as the towers. Patterns of light moved across every surface, creating an effect that was beautiful, but also slightly disorienting. Keeper Valnus waited for them near the entrance to the docking bay. In person, the Varen was even more striking than on the view screen. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, and its translucent skin revealed complex structures moving inside its body. But despite its alien appearance, there was something about its manner that felt welcoming. "Captain Harper, Lieutenant Singh, Engineer Grant, Dr. Martinez," Valnus said, somehow knowing each of their names. "Welcome to the Nexus of Understanding. This is what we call our primary station in this system." Sophie stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her nervousness. "How do you know our names? How can we understand each other so clearly?" Valnus made a gesture that might have been a smile. "We have been studying your transmissions for many years. Your languages, your cultures, your history. As for communication, we use a technology that translates thought patterns directly. You hear me in your own language because your mind interprets our meaning automatically. How long have you been watching us?" Maya asked. "We first detected signs of human civilization approximately 3,000 years ago," Valnus explained. "At that time, you were just beginning to develop what you call written language. We have observed your progress with great interest. You are a remarkable species." Daniel felt a chill. 3,000 years. The Varen had been watching humanity since ancient times, observing their wars, their achievements, their failures. "Why didn't you contact us before now?" Valnus began walking, gesturing for them to follow. The humans walked beside the alien through corridors that curved and twisted in ways that seemed to defy normal geometry. Light flowed through the walls like water, and occasionally they saw other Varen moving through the station, each one stopping to observe the human visitors with evident curiosity. "Every species must develop naturally until they reach a certain threshold," Valnus explained. "If we contact a civilization too early, we risk damaging their natural growth. They may become dependent on our technology, or they may be psychologically unprepared for the knowledge that they are not alone in the universe. We wait until a species develops space travel and begins exploring their local region of space. That shows they are ready to join the wider community." They entered a large chamber that seemed to be some kind of observation room. One wall was transparent, showing a breathtaking view of space and the gas giant planet below. The other walls displayed images and information in languages the humans couldn't read. "Your species interests us for a specific reason," Valnus continued. "In our millions of years of existence, we have encountered thousands of intelligent species. Most follow similar patterns of development. But humanity is different. You possess a quality that is rare in the galaxy." "What quality?" Sophie asked. Valnus turned to face them, and its large eyes seemed to look into each of them individually. "Adaptability. The ability to face impossible challenges and find ways to overcome them. Most species, when confronted with obstacles, will find ways to work around them, or will simply accept their limitations. Humans refuse to accept limitations. You push forward even when logic says you should stop. You adapt, you innovate, you survive." Lucas laughed nervously. "That's a nice way of saying we're stubborn." "Perhaps," Valnus said. "But that stubbornness has allowed you to survive conditions that would have destroyed other species. You have nearly made yourselves extinct several times through war, environmental damage, and disease. Yet each time you found a way to pull back from the brink. You learned from your mistakes and changed your behavior." Daniel felt a surge of pride but also concern. "You said you have something to share with us. What exactly do you want to give humanity?" Valnus gestured, and the walls of the chamber changed. Images appeared showing vast libraries of information. technologies that looked like magic, and scenes of the Varan civilization at work across multiple star systems. "We wish to offer you access to our archives," Valnis said. "Millions of years of accumulated knowledge, scientific principles that will allow you to advance your technology by centuries, medical techniques that can eliminate disease and extend life, engineering knowledge that will allow you to build ships that can cross the galaxy in years instead of centuries. We offer you the chance to become more than you are." The four humans stared at the images in wonder. This was beyond anything they had imagined. The Varan were offering to give humanity the keys to the stars, but Daniel felt a sense of caution growing in his mind. "Why? What do you want in return?" Valnis was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice carried a weight that hadn't been there before. "We want to see if humanity can handle such knowledge without destroying themselves. We want to know if you are ready to join the community of conscious beings, or if you will use our gifts to hasten your own end. Before we open our archives to you, you must pass a test, and I warn you now, many species have failed this test and have paid the ultimate price for their failure." The journey back to Earth took 3 months, and during that time, the crew of the USS Horizon sent constant updates about their encounter with the Varan. Every transmission was analyzed by thousands of scientists, politicians, and military leaders. The debate about how to respond began immediately. By the time the Horizon returned to Earth orbit, the planet below had changed. Every news channel broadcast nothing but stories about the aliens. Some people celebrated the discovery as the greatest moment in human history. Others feared what it meant. Religious leaders struggled to explain how alien life fit into their beliefs. Governments worried about how alien technology would affect the balance of power between nations. President Helen Morrison called an emergency session of the United Earth Coalition, the organization that governed humanity's space activities. Representatives from every nation gathered in Geneva to discuss what should be done. Daniel Harper was called to testify about everything he had seen and heard. The coalition chamber was packed with delegates, advisors, and observers. Daniel stood at the central podium and recounted his experience on the Varan station. He described Keeper Valnis, the incredible technology, and most importantly, the test that the Varan had proposed. "They want to give us one piece of their technology," Daniel explained. "A device that can produce unlimited clean energy. They say how we use this gift will determine whether they share more of their knowledge with us." Admiral Richard Cole, the commander of Earth's Defense Forces, stood up immediately. He was a stern man with gray hair and a face that rarely smiled. "This is a trap. We cannot accept technology from an alien species we know nothing about. What if this device is designed to make us dependent on them? What if it contains hidden surveillance equipment? We would be giving them control over our entire civilization." Many delegates nodded in agreement. The fear was understandable. Humanity had fought too many wars over resources and power. The idea of accepting a gift from an unknown source seemed dangerous. But Dr. Sophie Martinez also stood to speak. She had spent the entire journey back from the Varan station, analyzing everything they had learned. "Admiral Cole's concerns are valid, but I believe we must look at this from a different perspective. The Varan have technology far beyond ours. If they wanted to harm us, they could do so easily. Instead, they are offering us a chance to grow. Refusing their help because of fear would be the worst mistake humanity could make." The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued that accepting alien technology would destroy human innovation. Why would people work to solve problems if aliens could just give them the answers? Others worried about the social and economic disruptions that unlimited energy would cause. Industries that depended on traditional energy sources would collapse. Millions of jobs would disappear. Maya Singh, who had also been called to testify, addressed these concerns. "Yes, there will be disruption. Yes, things will change. But change is not always bad. Think about what unlimited clean energy could mean. No more wars over oil. No more children dying because their communities lack power. No more environmental damage from burning fossil fuels. The benefits far outweigh the risks." The vote was scheduled for the next day. Daniel spent that night unable to sleep. He walked through the streets of Geneva, watching people go about their lives, unaware that a decision was being made that would affect every human being alive and every generation to come. He stopped at a small park and sat on a bench. An old woman was there, feeding birds. She noticed him and smiled. "You look troubled, young man." Daniel almost laughed. He was in his 40s, hardly young, but he supposed age was relative. "I'm trying to make an important decision. I'm not sure what the right choice is." The old woman scattered more seeds for the birds. "In my experience, the right choice is usually the one that scares you the most. Safe choices keep you where you are. Scary choices help you grow." Daniel thanked her and returned to his hotel. The next morning, he entered the coalition chamber with a clear mind. He knew what he had to say. When the final debate opened, Daniel requested permission to speak one more time. He stood at the podium and looked at all the faces staring at him. These were the people who would decide humanity's future. "I understand everyone's fears," Daniel began. "I felt those same fears when I stood on that alien station, but I also felt something else. Hope. The Varen are not offering us charity. They are offering us a challenge. They want to see if we can be trusted with greater power. And honestly, I'm not sure we can be. Humanity has a long history of using new technology to hurt each other. But we also have a history of learning from our mistakes. Every time we create something that could destroy us, we eventually figure out how to use it responsibly. Nuclear weapons, genetic engineering, artificial intelligence. We survived all of these. We can survive this too." He paused and looked directly at Admiral Cole. "Admiral, you worry about dependence, but consider this. If we refuse the Varen's offer, we will spend the next 1,000 years trying to develop these technologies ourselves. During that time, how many people will die from diseases we could have cured? How many communities will suffer from lack of resources we could have provided? How many opportunities will we lose? The real trap is not accepting their help. The real trap is letting fear control our choices." The chamber erupted in discussion. Delegates argued with each other, advisors whispered urgently to their representatives, and observers shouted their opinions from the gallery. President Morrison called for order and then called for the vote. The decision was close. 53% voted to accept the Varan's test. 47% voted against it. Humanity would take the chance. 2 weeks later, a Varan ship arrived in Earth orbit. It was smaller than their station but still massive by human standards. Keeper Valnus emerged from the ship with an object about the size of a suitcase. This was the energy device. The coalition had decided to deploy the device in multiple locations simultaneously. They chose regions that needed it most. A refugee camp in North Africa, where people had been living without reliable power for decades. A remote island nation in the Pacific that was struggling with rising sea levels. A city in South America that had been devastated by natural disasters. And a research station in Antarctica where scientists studied climate change. Each location received a portion of the device's energy output. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The refugee camp suddenly had power for lights, water purification, refrigeration for medicine, and computers for education. The island nation could power desalination plants to create fresh water and energy barriers to protect against flooding. The South American city began rebuilding with modern infrastructure. The Antarctic Research Station could expand its operations tenfold. News broadcasts showed images of children studying under bright lights for the first time, of hospitals saving lives with equipment that had been impossible to run before, of communities coming together to build better futures. It seemed like a miracle, but not everyone was happy. Some corporations that had profited from traditional energy sources began spreading rumors that the alien technology was dangerous. Some governments tried to seize control of the devices in their regions, claiming national security concerns. Some extremist groups even attempted to destroy the devices, believing they were tools of evil forces. Each time these problems emerged, something interesting happened. Other humans stopped them. Engineers who worked for the greedy corporations leaked information about their company's lies. Citizens protested against governments that tried to monopolize the technology. Communities protected the devices from extremists and turned the attackers over to authorities. Daniel watched all of this from the coalition headquarters. He received daily reports about how the test was progressing. The situation was messy and imperfect, but overall, humanity was proving that it could handle the gift responsibly. 6 months after the devices were deployed, Keeper Valnus requested another meeting. Daniel, Maya, Lucas, and Sophie returned to the Varen station. This time they were not nervous. They had proven themselves, or so they thought. Valnus greeted them in the same observation chamber where they had first learned about the test. But something was different. The Varen ambassador seemed more serious, more intense than before. "You have done well," Valnus said. "The test has shown us that humanity possesses the qualities we hope to see. You have used our gift to help those in need. When problems arose, your people worked to solve them. You have demonstrated that you can be trusted with greater knowledge." The 4 humans felt relief and pride. They had succeeded. Humanity would receive access to the Varen archives. But then Valnus continued, and its next words changed everything. "However, before we proceed, there is something you must know about us, a truth we have not shared. The Varen you see today are not the Varen of the past. We were not always peaceful explorers seeking knowledge. There was a time when we were very much like you are now, struggling with our own nature, fighting our own demons. And what we learned during that struggle will determine whether we can truly help you, or whether we will doom you to repeat our mistakes." Keeper Valnus gestured toward the transparent wall, and the view of space changed. Images began to appear, showing scenes from the distant past. The 4 humans watched in silence as the story of the Varen civilization unfolded before them. The images showed a world very different from the peaceful stations they had seen. Cities burned. Weapons of terrible power destroyed entire regions. Varen fought against Varen in wars that consumed their civilization. The scenes were so violent that Sophie had to look away several times. "This is what we were," Valnus said quietly. 5 million years ago, the Varen were a young species, much like humanity is now. We had discovered space travel and had begun to spread to other worlds. But we brought our conflicts with us. We fought over resources, over ideologies, over territory. We developed weapons that could destroy planets, and we very nearly used them. Maya spoke up, her voice shaky. "What stopped you?" Valnus was silent for a long moment. The images on the wall changed, showing a planet that had been reduced to lifeless rock. "We did not stop in time. This was our homeworld. In our final war, both sides decided that if they could not win, no one should have anything. They unleashed weapons that sterilized the entire planet. Billions of Varen died in a matter of hours. The horror of what they were seeing sank in. Daniel felt sick. The beautiful, wise beings who had seemed so perfect were actually survivors of their own near extinction. How did any of you survive? A small group of our people were living on colony worlds and space stations when the homeworld was destroyed, Valnus explained. Perhaps 50 million Varen total, scattered across a dozen star systems. They had been against the war, but they had been powerless to stop it. Now they faced a choice. They could continue the path that had led to destruction, or they could choose something different. The images showed Varen gathering in huge assemblies, debating passionately. The debates lasted for decades, Valnus continued. Some wanted revenge against those who had destroyed the homeworld. Others wanted to rebuild the old civilization exactly as it had been. But a third group proposed something radical. They suggested that the Varen should completely transform their society. They should dedicate themselves not to conquest or competition, but to understanding and cooperation. Lucas leaned forward, fascinated despite the grim subject. That third group won, obviously. Eventually, Valnus said. But it took nearly 1,000 years. There were more conflicts, more deaths, more pain. Each time, the advocates for change would point to the ruins of our homeworld and ask if we wanted to create more graveyards. Slowly, painfully, our civilization transformed. We developed new technologies not for war but for exploration. We created new philosophies based on cooperation rather than competition. We learned to see other species not as threats or resources but as fellow travelers in the universe. Sophie wiped tears from her eyes. Why are you telling us this now? Why didn't you tell us from the beginning? Because you needed to pass the test first, Valnus said. We needed to see if humanity could handle a simple gift responsibly before we shared this burden with you. The truth is, we have encountered hundreds of young civilizations like yours over the past few million years. Some of them passed our test. Some of them failed. And what happened to them carries a lesson you must understand. The wall showed new images now. Dozens of different alien species, each one unique and fascinating. But each image was accompanied by ruins, by destroyed cities, by dead worlds. These species all failed our test, Valnis said. When we gave them technology, they used it to destroy themselves. Some fought wars with the new weapons they developed. Some created economic collapses that led to chaos. Some simply became so dependent on our gifts that they stopped developing their own abilities and gradually declined into extinction. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. So the test wasn't just about whether we could use the energy device well. It was about whether we would survive receiving it at all. Exactly, Valnis confirmed. Every gift of technology is also a weapon. Knowledge can be used to build or to destroy. We have learned to be very careful about who we share our knowledge with, because if we share it with the wrong species at the wrong time, we become responsible for their destruction. Maya stood up and paced the room, thinking hard. But we passed the test. You said so yourself, so why tell us about all these failures now? Are you trying to scare us? I am trying to prepare you, Valnis said. Because passing the first test was only the beginning. If we open our full archives to you, if we share technologies that can reshape reality itself, you will face temptations and challenges beyond anything you have experienced. Some of your people will want to use our knowledge for good. Others will want to use it for personal gain. Some will want to use it to dominate others. The question is not whether these conflicts will happen. They will. The question is whether humanity as a whole will be strong enough to survive them. Sophie returned to the group and asked the question they were all thinking. So what happens now? Do you give us access to your archives or not? Valnis turned to face them directly. That is not my decision alone. The Varen have debated this for months since your test began. Some of my people believe humanity is ready. Others believe you need more time. And some believe you will never be ready. That you are too violent and too divided to ever join the community of peaceful civilizations. What do you believe? Daniel asked. Valnis seemed to consider the question carefully. I believe humanity has potential. I have studied your history deeply. Yes, you have fought terrible wars. Yes, you have caused great suffering. But you have also shown remarkable compassion. You create art that moves the soul. You sacrifice yourselves to help strangers. You form bonds of love and loyalty that transcend all logic. You are a species of contradictions, capable of both great evil and great good. The question is, which side of your nature will win? Lucas spoke up, his engineer's mind focusing on practical concerns. If you do give us access to your archives, how will it work? Do we just get a data dump of all your knowledge? No, Valnis said firmly. That would be overwhelming and dangerous. Instead, we will establish a liaison program. Selected humans will come to our stations to study specific subjects. They will learn our sciences, our philosophies, our histories. Then they will return to Earth and teach others. It will take generations for humanity to fully integrate our knowledge. But that is how it should be. Real growth takes time. Daniel thought about what this meant. Humanity would not suddenly leap forward technologically. Instead, they would slowly learn and adapt. It made sense, but he knew many people on Earth would be disappointed. They wanted instant solutions to all their problems. Some of our people won't like that, Daniel said. They'll want everything immediately. I know, Valnis replied. And how humanity handles that disappointment will be another test. There will be many tests ahead, Captain Harper. Some obvious, some subtle. The path we are offering you is not easy. It requires patience, wisdom, and the ability to think beyond immediate needs to long-term consequences. Maya asked another question. You mentioned other species that passed your test. Where are they now? Can we meet them? Valnis made a gesture that seemed pleased. Yes. There are currently 17 other species in various stages of joining the community of conscious beings. Some have been learning from us for thousands of years. Others are new, like you. We can arrange meetings between humanity and these other species. Learning from those who have walked this path before you will be valuable. The thought of meeting multiple alien species was almost too much to process. Humanity had just learned they were not alone, and now they were being told there was an entire community of civilizations out there. It was overwhelming and exciting at the same time. Sophie had one more question. Your homeworld, the one that was destroyed, is it still a dead rock? Or did you ever try to restore it? Valnis's expression became sad. We left it as it was. It serves as a memorial and a warning. Every young Viren visits the ruins of our homeworld as part of their education. They see what hatred and fear can accomplish. They learn why we chose a different path. Perhaps someday young humans will visit there too. Perhaps seeing what we did to ourselves will help you avoid the same fate. The four humans sat in silence, absorbing everything they had learned. The Viren were not perfect beings who had always known peace. They were survivors who had climbed out of the ashes of their own destruction. That made their wisdom more meaningful, not less. They knew the cost of failure because they had paid it. So what happens next? Daniel finally asked. What do we need to do? Valnis stood tall, and the light within its body seemed to pulse with determination. You return to Earth. You tell your people everything I have told you. You let them decide if they want to walk this path. And if they choose to proceed, we will begin the next phase. The real journey starts now, Captain Harper. Everything before this was just preparation. Are you ready for what comes next? Daniel looked at his three companions. He saw fear and doubt in their eyes, but also hope and determination. They had come so far already. They could not turn back now. Yes, Daniel said. We're ready. The return to Earth was different from the first time. Daniel and his team carried the weight of the truth they had learned. The Viren were not gods or angels. They were a species that had nearly destroyed themselves and had chosen to become something better. That knowledge changed everything. When the USS Horizon entered Earth orbit, President Morrison requested an immediate meeting with the crew. This time, the meeting was broadcast live to the entire planet. Billions of people watched as Daniel Harper stood before the United Earth Coalition and told them the truth about the Viren. He spoke about the destroyed homeworld. He described the wars that had nearly ended the Viren civilization. He explained how they had transformed themselves over millions of years, and he revealed the stakes of accepting their help. The Viren are offering us a path forward, Daniel said to the assembled delegates and to the watching world, but it is not an easy path. It will require us to change in fundamental ways. We will have to let go of old hatreds. We will have to learn to think beyond our own nations and tribes. We will have to become something more than we are now, and there is no guarantee we will succeed. The Viren showed us images of dozens of species who received their help and failed, who used the knowledge to destroy themselves. We could easily become another image in that gallery of failures. The coalition chamber was silent. Even Admiral Cole, who had opposed accepting alien help, seemed moved by what he was hearing. Daniel continued, his voice steady and clear. But I believe we can do this, not because we are better than those other species who failed, not because we are special or chosen, but because we have something they may not have had. We know what failure looks like. We have seen the ruins of the Viren homeworld. We understand the cost of letting our worst impulses control us, and maybe, just maybe, that knowledge will be enough to help us make better choices. President Morrison stood and addressed the chamber. The question before us today is simple but profound. Do we accept the Viren's offer to join the community of conscious beings? Do we take this chance to grow beyond our current limitations? Or do we refuse and continue alone, developing at our own pace without outside influence? The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Every nation sent representatives to speak. Religious leaders, scientists, philosophers, and ordinary citizens all had their say. Some arguments were practical, focusing on the economic and social impacts. Others were philosophical, questioning whether humanity had the right to accept help from aliens or whether they should remain independent. Maya Singh found herself becoming an unexpected voice in the debate. She was invited to speak at universities, on news programs, and in public forums. Everywhere she went, people asked her the same question. What are they really like? They're not that different from us, Maya would answer. They feel emotions. They make mistakes. They struggle with difficult decisions. The only real difference is that they have had millions of years to learn from their mistakes. We are just starting that journey. Lucas Grant focused on the practical aspects. He worked with Earth's top engineers to analyze what limited access to Viren technology could mean. The energy device was just the beginning. The Viren had promised to share knowledge about medicine, materials science, space travel, and more. Each advancement could save millions of lives and improve billions more. But Lucas was also honest about the challenges. This technology will disrupt everything, he told a gathering of business leaders. Entire industries will become obsolete overnight. Jobs will disappear. Economic systems will need to be rebuilt. If we accept this help, we need to be ready for chaos. We need plans to help people transition. We need to make sure the benefits reach everyone, not just the wealthy and powerful. Dr. Sophie Martinez spent her time talking to people who were afraid. She visited communities that feared change, that worried alien influence would destroy human culture and identity. She listened to their concerns and tried to address them honestly. "I understand your fear," she would tell them. "Change is terrifying. The unknown is terrifying. But staying the same is also a choice, and it has its own risks. Right now, Earth faces problems we cannot solve on our own. Climate change is accelerating. Resources are running out. Diseases still kill millions every year. The Viren can help us solve these problems. Yes, we will change in the process. But change is not the same as destruction. We can grow while still remaining human." After 3 days of debate, President Morrison called for a vote. This time, it would not just be the coalition delegates who decided. This decision was too important. Every nation would hold referendums. Every person who wanted a voice would have one. Humanity would decide its future together. The voting took 2 weeks. Different nations had different procedures, different requirements. But slowly the results came in. The world watched as each nation reported its decision. Some voted overwhelmingly to accept the Viren's offer. Others were split almost evenly. A few voted to refuse, but when all the votes were counted, the result was clear. 67% of humanity voted to accept. 33% voted to refuse. The margin was not as large as some had hoped, but it was decisive. Humanity would walk the path the Viren offered. President Morrison made the announcement from United Earth headquarters. Today, humanity has made a choice that will echo through all our future history. We have chosen to accept the help of the Viren. We have chosen to join the community of conscious beings. We have chosen growth over stagnation, hope over fear. But we must remember that this is just the beginning. The real work starts now. Daniel and his team were invited to return to the Viren station to formally accept the offer. This time they were not alone. A delegation of 20 humans from different nations and backgrounds came with them. Scientists, diplomats, philosophers, and artists. People who would begin the process of learning from the Viren and bringing that knowledge back to Earth. When they arrived at the nexus of understanding, they found that it had changed. The station was larger now, with new sections that had been built specifically for human visitors. There were living quarters designed for human needs, laboratories where humans and Viren could work together, and assembly halls where both species could gather. Keeper Valnus greeted them with what looked like genuine pleasure. "Welcome back, Captain Harper, and welcome to all your companions. You have made a brave choice. Now begins the real journey." Over the following months, the first exchange programs began. Humans came to the Viren stations to study. They learned about energy systems that operated on principles of quantum mechanics that Earth scientists had only theorized about. They discovered medical techniques that could heal injuries and cure diseases that had been thought impossible to treat. They studied engineering methods that allowed construction of structures in space that defied previous limitations. But they also learned about Viren philosophy and culture. They attended sessions where Viren teachers explained how their society made decisions, how they resolved conflicts, how they balanced individual needs with community welfare. These lessons were often harder than the technical knowledge. It was one thing to learn how to build a fusion reactor. It was another thing entirely to learn how to think differently about fundamental questions of existence and purpose. Not everything went smoothly. Some humans who came to study became frustrated with the pace of learning. They wanted quick answers, instant solutions, but the Viren insisted on teaching fundamentals first. "You must understand the principles," they would say, "not just memorize the applications. Otherwise, you will be unable to adapt the knowledge to your own needs." There were also cultural misunderstandings. Humans communicated with words and body language. The Viren communicated with thought patterns and emotional resonance. Sometimes what a human meant to say was not what a Viren understood. These misunderstandings led to confusion and occasionally to conflict. But both species worked to bridge the gap. Meanwhile, on Earth, the process of integration continued. The energy devices that had been deployed during the test were now being produced in larger numbers with Viren guidance. New devices were being introduced that could purify water, clean polluted air, and restore damaged ecosystems. The changes were gradual but steady. Daniel found himself in an unusual position. He was no longer just a ship captain. He had become a symbol of humanity's new relationship with the Varen. People wanted to hear his thoughts, his experiences, his advice. He did his best to be honest with them. "This is not going to be easy," he would tell anyone who asked. "We are going to make mistakes. We are going to face challenges we cannot imagine yet. Some people will use the new knowledge for selfish purposes. Some will resist change and try to hold us back. But I believe we can handle this. I believe humanity has the strength to grow beyond what we are now. We just have to keep trying, keep learning, keep moving forward." 1 year after the formal acceptance of the Varen's offer, Daniel was invited to visit the ruins of the Varen homeworld. It was considered a great honor. Few non-Varen had ever been permitted to see the memorial world. The journey took several weeks, even with Varen transportation technology. When they finally arrived, Daniel stood in the viewing area of the ship and looked down at the planet below. It was gray and lifeless, 20 years had passed since the first contact with the Varen. Captain Daniel Harper was now Admiral Daniel Harper, and his hair had gone gray. He stood in the command center of a new space station orbiting Earth, looking at the planet below and marveling at how much had changed. Earth was different now. The energy crisis that had threatened civilization was gone. Clean power flowed to every corner of the planet. Cities that had once choked on pollution now had clear air. Regions that had faced drought and famine now had water and food. Medical advances had eliminated diseases that had killed millions. The average human lifespan had increased by 30 years, but the changes went deeper than technology. Humanity itself was changing. The knowledge that they were not alone in the universe, that they were part of a larger community of intelligent beings, had shifted how people thought about themselves and their place in existence. Maya Singh, now Dr. Maya Singh and head of the Human Viren Exchange Program, often spoke about this transformation. "We used to think in terms of nations and tribes," she would say. "We defined ourselves by what made us different from each other. Now we define ourselves as humans, as one species among many. That shift in perspective has changed everything." It was true. The old divisions that had separated humanity for centuries were still there, but they mattered less now. People still had different cultures, different languages, different beliefs, but they were increasingly able to see past those differences to recognize their common humanity. When you knew that there were beings out there who were truly alien, your neighbor who spoke a different language or practiced a different religion suddenly seemed much more familiar. Not everyone welcomed these changes. There were groups who believed humanity was losing its identity by accepting Varen influence. They argued that humans should have developed their own solutions to their problems no matter how long it took. Some of these groups engaged in peaceful protests. Others turned to violence, attacking facilities that used Varen technology or threatening people who worked with the aliens. Admiral Harper had dealt with several such incidents personally. The worst had been an attack on a research station where humans and Varen worked together. A terrorist group had planted explosives, hoping to kill everyone inside and make a statement against alien influence. The attack had been stopped, but 3 people died in the process, 2 humans and 1 Varen. The death of the Varen had shocked both species. It was the first time a Varen had been killed by deliberate human action. Many Varen questioned whether humanity was really ready for the partnership they had offered. Some suggested that the exchange program should be ended, that humanity needed more time to mature before they could be trusted. But Keeper Valnus, who had remained the primary liaison between the 2 species, argued against ending the relationship. "Every species faces resistance to change," Valnus told the Varen Council. "Even we did millions of years ago. The question is not whether there will be those who oppose progress. There will always be such people. The question is whether the majority of humanity continues to choose growth over fear, and so far they have." The debate within Varen society continued for months. During that time, something remarkable happened on Earth. Humans from every nation came together to condemn the attack. Even people who had been skeptical about the Varen partnership spoke out against the violence. Religious leaders who had initially questioned whether accepting alien help was morally right now held memorial services for the fallen Varen. Artists created works honoring the friendship between the 2 species. Children in schools wrote letters to the Varen, apologizing for the actions of a few hateful humans. When the Varen Council saw this response, they decided to continue the partnership. Humanity has shown us that they understand the difference between disagreement and hatred, Valnus announced. They have shown that even when some among them choose violence, the majority will stand against it. This is what we hope to see. This is why we believe they will ultimately succeed. The exchange program not only continued but expanded. More humans went to study with the Varan. More Varan came to Earth to observe and learn about human culture. Both species were changing each other in unexpected ways. The Varan, for all their advanced knowledge, had become somewhat static over the millions of years of their existence. They had achieved peace and stability, but they had lost some of the passion and creativity that came from struggle. Humans, with their short lives and intense emotions, reminded the Varan of what they had once been. Human art, music, and literature fascinated the Varan. Human willingness to take risks and try new approaches influenced Varan thinking in subtle ways. Lucas Grant, now the chief engineer for the Human-Varan Joint Construction Project, summed it up well. They have the knowledge and wisdom of millions of years. We have the energy and creativity of a young species. Together we create something neither of us could achieve alone. That is what real partnership means. One of the most visible symbols of this partnership was the Gateway Station, a massive structure being built at the edge of the solar system. It would serve as a hub for travel between human space and the wider galaxy. Ships from dozens of different species would stop there. It would be a place where different civilizations could meet, trade, and learn from each other. The construction of Gateway Station was a joint effort. Human engineers worked alongside Varan technicians. The design incorporated elements from both cultures. It was not purely functional like most Varan structures, nor was it as chaotic and decorated as typical human buildings. It was a blend, something new that represented both species. Admiral Harper had the honor of overseeing the project. He spent months at the construction site, watching as the station took shape. He met workers from Earth and from the Varan worlds. He listened to their stories, their hopes, their concerns. He realized that this was more than just a building project. It was a statement about what humanity was becoming. During one of his inspections, Harper encountered a young engineer named Kate Morrison. She was the great-granddaughter of President Helen Morrison, who had led Earth during the first contact. Kate had grown up in a world where aliens were normal, where travel to other star systems was possible, where the impossible had become routine. "Admiral," Kate asked him, "what was it like when you first met the Varan?" "Were you scared?" Harper smiled at the memory. "Terrified. I had no idea what to expect. Everything I knew about the universe had just changed, but I was also excited. I felt like I was standing at the beginning of something amazing." "And were you right?" Kate asked. "Did it turn out to be amazing?" Harper looked around at the station being built, at humans and Varan working together, at the ships coming and going from distant stars. "Yes," he said, "but not in the way I expected. I thought the amazing part would be the technology, the new knowledge. But the real amazing part has been watching humanity grow, watching us become something better than we were." As the years continued to pass, humanity's transformation accelerated. New technologies allowed for the colonization of Mars and several moons in the outer solar system. Human ships, built with Varan guidance but incorporating human innovations, began exploring neighboring star systems. Contact was made with some of the other species that the Varan had mentioned, other young civilizations that were also learning to join the galactic community. Dr. Sophie Martinez led the first human expedition to meet another alien species. They were called the Kethran, a species of aquatic beings who communicated through patterns of bioluminescence. The meeting was awkward at first, with translation difficulties and cultural misunderstandings. But slowly, communication improved. The Kethran and humans began to share their experiences of working with the Varan. They compared notes on the challenges of rapid technological advancement and social change. "We are not so different," the Kethran ambassador told Sophie through translation systems. "We all struggle with the same questions. How do we remain true to ourselves while growing beyond what we were? How do we balance tradition with progress? How do we handle those among us who fear change? These are universal challenges." Back on Earth, monuments were being built to commemorate the transformation. The most significant was the Memorial of Choice, constructed on the site where President Morrison had announced humanity's decision to accept the Varan partnership. The memorial featured statues representing different moments in human history. from the first humans to leave Earth to the first contact with the Varen. But the centerpiece was a simple statement carved in stone in every human language and in Varen script. We chose to grow. Daniel Harper attended the dedication ceremony for the memorial. He was old now, in his 70s, and he knew his time was running short. But he felt satisfied. He had witnessed humanity's greatest transformation. He had played a part in bringing two species together. He had seen his own species take its first steps toward becoming something greater. During his speech at the dedication, Daniel spoke about the journey humanity had taken. 20 years ago, we discovered we were not alone. We learned that the universe was full of other minds, other civilizations, other ways of being. That discovery could have destroyed us. We could have fallen into despair, realizing we were not special. We could have